All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we are taking on a massive mission to sharpen your mind and protect you from one of the most common, everyday hazards out there: bad reasoning. Get ready, because we are officially beginning your training as a truth detective. Think about it for just a second. Have you ever been watching an ad or maybe listening to a debate and you found yourself nodding along only to realize later that you had completely fallen for a sneaky trick? It happens, right? As an 8th grade student navigating a world that is just full of media, loud opinions, and constant information, it is incredibly easy to be swayed by arguments that sound super smart but are actually completely hollow. Now, this isn't just about winning a debate, it's actually deeply connected to your faith. Colossians 2:8 gives us this incredible warning: see to it that no one takes you captive through hollow and deceptive philosophy. We're called to really think critically. You can actually view critical thinking as your spiritual armor. It protects you against the empty, deceptive arguments of the world, because at the end of the day, we don't want to be fooled. To get you fully equipped, here's our quick roadmap for today. We'll start with the threat of deception, look at what logical fallacies actually are, meet our fallacy lineup, practice spotting the tricks, and then finish up by looking at how to be a godly learner who truly seeks truth. Okay, Section 1, the threat of deception. Let's start this first phase of training by figuring out where these threats actually hide. The truth is, deceptive arguments are absolutely everywhere. You're going to encounter them in debates, splashed all across advertisements, and buried deep inside opinion pieces. Sometimes people use faulty reasoning completely intentionally to manipulate you into buying a product or agreeing with their agenda. But other times, it's totally unintentional, just sloppy, careless reasoning. But here's the thing. Whether someone is intentionally manipulating you or just being intellectually lazy, the result is the exact same. It's a weak argument. If you can spot these, you avoid being convinced by them, and that makes you a much stronger thinker. Moving right along to Section 2, what are logical fallacies? We need to officially identify these flaws so we know exactly what we're looking for. So the big takeaway here is that a logical fallacy is essentially a massive crack in an argument's foundation, one that can cause the whole thing to completely collapse. It's a flaw in reasoning. Someone might use huge vocabulary words and speak with total confidence, but if their logic is faulty, the entire statement is misleading. Being able to recognize these flaws doesn't just protect you, it actually makes you a way more persuasive writer and speaker yourself, because you'll know how to build your own arguments on solid ground. Which brings us to Section 3, the fallacy lineup. It is time to bring our main suspects right into the interrogation room. Here's a quick mugshot of the 4 major fallacies we really need to catch: the hasty generalization, the ad hominem, the false cause, and the slippery slope. Whenever you're evaluating an argument, keep these 4 profiles in the back of your mind and always ask yourself, does the evidence actually support the claim, or is the writer just using one of these tricks to distract me from their weak reasoning? Let's take a closer look at our very first suspect, the hasty generalization. This happens when a tiny, almost invisible sliver of evidence is used to make a giant, sweeping claim. Imagine meeting literally 2 rude people from a certain city and then deciding, well, everyone there must be rude. Or assuming that because 3 students were caught cheating, boom, all students must be dishonest. It is completely illogical to take the actions of 2 or 3 people and apply it to a whole population. There just isn't enough evidence to support such a massive claim. Our next suspect is the ad hominem. This is a Latin phrase that translates to the man. It happens when someone unfairly goes after a person's character rather than actually dealing with the topic at hand. For instance, imagine someone says, "You can't believe what he says about climate change because he's not a scientist." Or picture someone arguing passionately for community recycling. If someone else fires back with, "You shouldn't listen to her opinion on recycling, she litters sometimes," that is a classic ad hominem. Attacking the person for littering instead of addressing their actual points about the benefits of recycling is a total distraction. It doesn't prove the argument about recycling wrong at all. It just attacks the messenger. Moving down the lineup, watch out for the false cause. This one is super sneaky. It tricks us into believing that sequence automatically equals causation. It's like thinking a rooster crowing caused the sun to come up, just because the sun rose right after he crowed. Assuming 2 events are linked without real evidence is a massive flaw in reasoning. And finally, we have the slippery slope. This is where people jump to massive doomsday conclusions over just a tiny, often totally harmless first step. It assumes this wild chain reaction of terrible events without a single shred of proof that those events will actually happen. To see just how silly this can get, check out this claim. If we allow students to use calculators, soon they won't be able to do any math at all. I mean, come on. It assumes an extreme outcome, the total loss of all human mathematical ability, just because of a helpful little tool. It jumps straight to the absolute worst-case scenario with zero evidence to back it up. All right, Section 4, Spotting the Tricks. Let's get out into the field and build our practical skills. I want you to put your detective hat on for a second and pause to figure out which trick this car ad is using. The advertisement literally screams, if you don't buy this car, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. Think about our lineup. Which fallacy is this? Well, if you guessed slippery slope, you absolutely nailed it, because the ad jumps straight to extreme, unproven consequences. It assumes that the single step of not buying a specific car will inevitably lead to an entire lifetime of terrible regret. It's just a manipulative trick designed to create panic, completely avoiding any actual logic about the car's quality or price. Now for our final part, Section 5, Seeking Truth and the Godly Learner. We are shifting from catching bad logic to understanding the profound moral weight of how we evaluate information. As Christian thinkers, we are called to weigh every single claim carefully, test it against Scripture, and always choose honesty over manipulation. Philippians 4:8 lays it out perfectly for us. Whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, think about such things. In real life, this means we must seek truth without distortion. We have to give fair consideration to multiple perspectives and absolutely refuse to accept arguments that rely on deception or unfair attacks. And this is the very core of the godly learner philosophy. At HeroesMart Academy, we firmly believe that education intertwined with biblical morality is absolutely essential, because education without morality can actually hurt. Your knowledge and intelligence shouldn't just make you more capable of arguing. They should primarily be tools that help you make wise, righteous, and God-honoring choices in your life. Always remember the lesson from Romans 8:6-7. Keeping the mind spiritually minded leads to life and peace. When you learn how to identify logical fallacies, you're doing more than just winning debates. You're actively protecting your mind. You're ensuring that you're guided by truth rather than being dragged around by hollow and deceptive philosophies. Keeping your mind centered on God, truth, and wisdom brings true life and peace. So here is the massive challenge I'm leaving you with today. Will you be a passive listener soaking in manipulative arguments, or an active, godly thinker who weighs every single claim against the truth? Keep that spiritual armor up, and the next time you scroll through a feed or watch an ad, see just how many fallacies you can catch.